This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, this WWE superstar will be sidelined for a while. This AEW star needs 2 new knees. And 2026 marks a massive shift in WWE. We're going to break all of that down. This is your SummerSlam results show. We've got 2 nights of SummerSlam we got to get through. AEW had a couple of programs that we've got to talk about, and we're going to talk about what we really like on AEW and maybe some things that could be better. Help me sort it all out, break it all down, discuss the wonderful world of wrestling. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz, I'm going to need you to go to your mailbox. Nick Khan is about to charge us to podcast about wrestling pretty soon. We're going to get a bill. We have discovered here at WWE offices that you are one of the members that podcast. We've decided that if you speak the name WWE over the internet airwaves, you got to pay us a royalty of $5. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sincerely.
That's what it feels like, doesn't it?
Sincerely, your friend, Nick Khan. And my God, but that's because I told you, when we started this podcast, I told you that's how Vince was. I think Nick Khan is like the baby spawn of Vince McMahon, and he's just trying to suck every single dollar. And he's got that mindset because he knows people are going to pay it. And it's crazy because that's the kind of person you need to do it, where he's just like, I'm here to make this company money, and that's my job, and I can sit here stoic, and 500-600 people are going to complain online, but did you guys realize we have like a couple $1 billion deals, and I'm sitting there negotiating using all my leverage, and by the way, we just sold out SummerSlam for 2 nights and had about 113,000 people paying a shit ton of money for our product, and we just brought back a guy that the whole world on some level is looking at a little bit crooked because of the fact that he likes some weird photos. So, cuz it's a crazy time. It's an interesting time. I'm curious as to how you viewed SummerSlam as a whole. I thought that at least at the starting point, it was better than WrestleMania.
Yeah, and look, before we started the show, you had made a comment to me that you felt like this was the worst SummerSlam ever, and I pushed back on you a little bit. I thought the one that we attended here in Detroit 2 years ago was pretty bad. Overall, like after that show, I told my wife, I was like, don't ever spend money like that on another ticket ever again. Because it was expensive and we didn't even sit. I don't think we sat anywhere close as you guys sat. And she spent a good chunk of change. And I was like, just don't ever do that ever again. I was like, it's not worth it. Because you don't know what you're going to get. It could be a great show. It could be a bit of a bummer of a show. I feel like this SummerSlam will be remembered for the 2 main events on both nights. And everything else was just kind of filler to get you to that point. And it was those 2 things, what they sent you home with. And this is the thing about wrestling fans. They don't necessarily remember everything. They just remember how you sent them home, and they remember how they sent you home feeling. And with what we got on night 1, which we'll get into here in a few moments, and what we got on night 2, they were both big surprises. Night 1, maybe not so much. We talked about it for a couple of weeks leading up to SummerSlam.
Right.
But they were both big surprises, and they left you with a state of awe, and they left you with a feeling of, wow, that just happened and I got to witness it. And I think that's what wrestling fans go back to and they lean on, like, it wasn't so bad. It was actually really good. Was it though? It was really that final maybe 30 minutes was really, really good. Everything else was just kind of ho-hum. And I kind of felt like that's what the SummerSlam was. It was very ho-hum. I thought you had 2 exceptional main events, and what took place after the main events was crazy. And that is really how this is going to be remembered. You want to get into these results and kind of how they tied into this week's wrestling on WWE?
Yeah, real fast. My thoughts on what you just said, very, very much so, exactly to the point of what I felt. It was like intentional, like let's just have some of these matches get to the main event and then we build up to a crescendo. But for wrestling fans, we do like moments. And what really drove the nail home for me was night 2. I was really excited for the Fatu match. and they have a match. It's not that good. It's quick,
Mm-hmm.
and then the high spot happens after the match. That could have been the finish. So to me, it highlighted that. Oh man, that's when I reflected and I said, they're setting this up this way where it's like building up to a crescendo. The matches are kind of ending quickly. There are matches that are happening like 10 minutes, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like this is being choreographed in a way to kind of build up. But at the same token, the people that I wanted to see wrestle and have some moments in high spots, they just had matches and they kept it moving. And I was just like, oh man, it made me feel, and my note was, you didn't need 2 nights. You could have cut out half the matches and put it and made a 5-hour pay-per-view. 2 nights is just commercial. And if that's what it's going to be, where night 1, Saturday, is not as good as night 2, and this is how you're approaching it, I don't like it. And especially if you got to pay extra for it, I will be skipping a lot of the night 1s because it's crazy. It wasn't that good.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Do you think maybe they booked themselves into a bit of a problem going to 2 nights, right? Obviously, it's a cash grab. You now get to charge double the entry gate. You now get to charge double everything because you've got 2 nights. Do you think maybe they booked themselves into a bit of a problem here where, like we said, it seems like it was a lot of fluff. It seems like it was a lot of filler.
Yep.
A lot of these matches, you probably could have got on a Monday Night Raw, or you could have got on a SmackDown, or you could have moved these to a B-level pay-per-view. Instead, you kind of stuffed them into a SummerSlam, and it really brought down the value of the overall show.
Exactly. You just need 1 night, and you could have started the first night with CM Punk. You have the big return. It's crazy. And then you finish off with John Cena. It's crazy. 2 nights waters it down. And especially, too, when you have fast-paced matches that have these quick endings that just that get you there. You're just like, oh, man. It was disappointing. Let's get into it.
The other thing, too, you brought up quick endings and you brought up fast-paced matches. I think each night, for this starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time and then ending sometime around or after 10 p.m. Eastern time, which is about 4+ hours of wrestling, you really only got about an hour 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours of wrestling.
Right.
The rest of that was packages and ads. I'm not sure what you pay for your Peacock, but I pay for the ad subscription one, right? I'm not trying to give more money than I have to. So a lot of what I got was cut into with the ads, and it was the video packages that kind of bookended those ads. And I was just kind of like, wow, man, like if you ever needed pee breaks, you had time for pee breaks.
Right.
There was no reason for you to be stuck to your chair. You got very little wrestling over the course of 2 nights, and it really felt like you got more ads and more video packages than you did anything else. But let's jump right in here. Let's go with night 1. We've got our results. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso kick everything off. They end up beating Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now, I feel like this was just kind of a setup because you got to see a continuation of this on Monday Night Raw. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, LA Knight all get beat down by what we're now going to deem the Vision, which is Seth Rollins' group with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. It really does feel like they are pushing towards a Roman Reigns Braun Breaker match at some point, and that seems like that's the direction that they really want to go in. Probably trying to give Braun a little bit of a rub there because obviously Roman Reigns is still one of the biggest names and biggest draws in wrestling. After that, we had Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. They ended up defeating the Judgment Day for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. I want to get your opinion on this. So something that I noticed on Monday Night Raw regarding Charlotte. Charlotte is now kind of reveling in this face moment. The crowd seems to have really come around on her, but Charlotte doesn't really share the spotlight well. As she's trying to be a baby face, and she's trying to do this with Alexa Bliss. When they're cutting promos and when they're doing stuff in the ring, if you didn't notice it, I want you to pay attention going forward. Charlotte really seems to control 60 to 80% of whatever that narrative is, and she really seems to block out Alexa Bliss. Now, I don't know if this is done on purpose or if this is just Charlotte's not really used to being a tag wrestler and she's not used to sharing the spotlight. But if I was Alexa Bliss, I would be pretty upset about this. And again, I'm assuming this just might be some growing pains because again, Charlotte Flair is not necessarily used to working in this type of situation, but it really feels as though Charlotte is overshadowing Alexa Bliss, and it feels like there's a bit of a conscious effort on Charlotte's part to do this, whether she realizes it or not. I'm not sure if you've noticed that when they had their little promo in the ring on Monday Night Raw, to me it just kind of felt like Charlotte was very much the dominating voice and very much the dominating force. You come back to SmackDown and it's a lot more of the same. So much so that Charlotte ends up getting herself in a match. Do you see these two coexisting well? And do you see this maybe causing real life problems? Obviously, right now, the whole thing is we're not friends. We're just here by happen chance and by circumstance. And the vibe that they're giving off is Alexa Bliss wants to be Charlotte's friend, but Charlotte is trying to keep Alexa at maybe arm's length. So do you think maybe this is real life? Do you think this is just them working storyline and working me? Do you think that this could lead to problems? Like there's a little bit here to unpack, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that it's eventually Charlotte's going to go back to being heel, because I feel like they could have went nuclear, and it's one of those deals where Charlotte maybe at some point has wanted just a little bit of the taste of some FaceTime, some you deserve it chance. But in the end, I think she works really well as a heel because people genuinely can easily not like her. The way she conducts herself, the way in which she's a Flair. Ric Flair, in his best moments, was kind of the bad guy that was kind of in the mix, kind of that in between. And I do think the fans really like Alexa Bliss. So I'm always just thinking, how are they going to tell the story when they break up? Because this tag team's not going to last all that long. The money's in the match between Alexa and Charlotte. So it's just going to be, like you said, maybe to the point where Alexa's jealous and she's like, dude, you're stepping all over me, or you're not letting me shine, or typically how the WWE does it, they'll have some matches and Alexa will make a mistake or make a botched move and then they'll lose, and then Charlotte will get pissed, and then eventually she's going to beat her ass. So you're absolutely right. Charlotte is in need of working with a tag team partner and not trying to overshadow, because you're right. She's a Flair, and she always wants the big attention on her. And at this point in time, you got to be a team player, and eventually they're going to feud, and we'll see how they get there. And hopefully they tell a good story. But with Charlotte Flair, it's interesting because you put her in a tag team. She is more of an alpha kind of gal. And so we'll see how the story progresses. But eventually I see it where they break up and they have a nice feud in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the money is in the Charlotte and Alexa match. And this is just probably what's going to get us there. It's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. And like I said, if you hadn't noticed it, just pay attention going forward.
Right.
Just kind of watch how Charlotte and Alexa are when they both have to share the same camera or they have to share the same spotlight. It's really, really interesting. It's something that I picked up on, like I said, on Monday, and then it was followed up and confirmed on Friday night for me. Next, we had Sami Zayn defeating Karrion Kross, which was a very quick match. Is Karrion Kross done with WWE? And I asked that question because Uncle Dave and Fightful have given us a little bit of insight on some contract news. So I'm going to read this to you real quick, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about this match. We can talk about the crowd's reaction to Karrion Kross. So Fightful Select earlier this week reported that Kross and Scarlett's contracts are coming up this week. Or this weekend, with WWE higher-ups telling Fightful that the duo hasn't been offered a new contract at the time of that writing. That was back on August 5th, so very early in the week. In a new update, Dave Meltzer reported that Kross has been offered a new contract by WWE. Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio, I was told the story about him not being signed to a new contract is legit, but he did get an offer. I was told that he has gotten an offer. I don't expect him to go anywhere. The crowd is incredibly behind Karrion Kross, and Karrion Kross's promos are exceptional. The mental work is fantastic. The stuff he does on social media, incredible. Scarlett, she's incredible looking, and she's a great part of his character. His in-ring work always leaves me wanting more. I don't ever watch one of his matches, and I'm never like, man, that was a fantastic match. In this case, he has done nothing but take L's. They've not really built anything around him. There was this weird story with Sami Zayn. Obviously, Sami beat him, and it was done rather quickly. Is Karrion Kross just completely done with WWE? In the crowd after the fact, when night 2 ends and Triple H is sitting on the podium with all of the other guys from WWE, and they're having a little conversation back and forth because we no longer do press conferences because Triple H was really, really horrible at those and always said really inflammatory things on accident. And when we get to the end of what happened with night 2, there's probably a really good reason why we don't do those anymore. The crowd was chanting for Karrion Kross. He heard that as the guy that they brought back on night 2. To me, it just seems like Karrion Kross was very much a Triple H creation and guy, and it just hasn't worked on the main roster. It hasn't worked since day one on the main roster. If you're Karrion Kross, why would you come back to WWE? Do you think he comes back to WWE? Do you think he should go somewhere else? What are your thoughts on this Karrion Kross situation? Because, again, this is another thing where there's quite a bit here to unpack.
Yeah, and the wrestling world moves fast. I don't know if you saw, Karrion Kross went on a podcast and said, I don't know what you guys are hearing on the internet, but it's not true. So Uncle Dave is spitting out some wrong information because these wrestlers can get on a podcast right away and then dispel any notion. And here's the deal. If you're Karrion Kross, there's a lot to unpack, and a week is not enough time to negotiate what you want. Here's the deal. You know he's getting offers potentially from TNA or AEW. AEW probably is not a landing spot because of Scarlett and Don Callis, and there's a whole messy situation that happened there. If you're Karrion Kross, you are negotiating money, you're negotiating push, you're negotiating a lot of different things. And I think for him, it's just one of those deals where mutually agree to leave. You are not going to elevate past Braun Breaker. Right now, it's been established who's in the mid-card. LA Knight's the first guy out for Seth Rollins. It's not you. Yeah. You're in a feud that you can't win. And so they view you as the circus act. They won't let you get over. So unfortunately, he got himself in the best position that he could to leverage himself. Now you go to TNA, you go somewhere else, and you become a star. But yeah, you're right. The biggest problem is he can't finish the matches, and that's part of it. Sami Zayn has good matches with everybody. And that match was useless, and it's unfortunate because of the fact that there's so little time that he gets opportunities to be on these pay-per-views that you just think a fresh start. You've built up the gimmick. You now can be, somebody that can have a premier entrance and now work on your craft to tell your story and become over. But the time in WWE, I don't think will produce much. And I think I said it. I said last week, if he wins the match, he's a part of the team. If he ends up losing the match, it did nothing for him to just be a guy chirping behind the scenes and make himself over. Move on, get yourself over the next 3 years, come back at 44 years old and have a nice 3-year run. But your run in WWE, they're basically telling you, Karrion, leave and do something with yourself. Yeah. That's what they're telling you. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
So there was a report that came out, I think it was probably 2 weeks ago, basically the report said it's his inability to work in the ring. He can't do anything flat backed, and WWE doesn't buy into his wrestling in the ring. And like I said, him in the ring just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't work. I just you lose me there. I'm with you all the way up until we get into the ropes, between the ropes.
Exactly.
Do you think that is part of the problem and maybe what is leading to, I guess, WWE will say not trusting him and not wanting to give him a ball to run with, not the ball, but a ball to run with, because this guy has felt like he has been put in a box and just kind of put on a shelf.
Yeah, and also too, there is some leverage that he created for himself with some of the gimmicks. So I'm certain he's asking for more money. He's asking for, hey, titles, so put me over. And they're like, well, we're going to need you probably to take one for another guy. And then maybe in a year, it's just, it's a long road. And these contracts, he's probably taking to others and saying, can you match it? Can you beat it? And so it's going back and forth. And I also think WWE is not going to be in a situation where they're going to be like, sure, we'll give you $250,000 more. They're going to be like, we're going to need you to do this, this, and this, and this. And he's probably like, what about the T-shirts? And da-da-da-da. And so I think that it just would behoove him to kind of go the way of Matt Cardona. Just show up when you need to. You show up at TNA, show up at AEW once in a while. I don't think a main roster run on WWE is best for him based on his character. Like, it's just one of those deals where pretty soon it'll be him literally in London at the top of Big Ben going TikTok by himself. Like, dude, okay, you know what I mean? Eventually, it's gonna get to something. We need you to do something here.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah, eventually it's just going to be pointless. You got to have good matches, and what's the point? They basically that's kind of, it felt like kind of a WWE slap in the face. Like, you're going to lose your last match in front of everybody. We're going to devalue you, and then in 3 months, good luck. We're going to put you in the ground and build your way up, and let's see what you got. That's what it felt like.
It's exactly what it felt like. I just don't know where he goes and what he does from here. Like you said, maybe something on the indies, go do some stuff with GCW, go do some stuff with TNA. Maybe AEW is an option. Like you said, there's a little bit of heat there with Don Callis. So we'll see what happens. Maybe you keep them separated. I'm not sure, but I just don't know what you do with them. Again, this is a guy who has done a really good job rehabilitating his character on WWE television. It just hasn't worked for whatever reason. Our next match was Tiffany Stratton defeating Jade Cargill in a bit of a surprise. I'm not sure what we do with Jade Cargill after this. This kind of felt like this was the build to her getting crowned, and in a 7-minute match against Tiffany Stratton where Tiffany got limited action in, Jade really dominated this match. Jade ends up losing. What do you think the deal is with Jade? Has Jade just not as advanced as quickly as they had thought? I think when Jade came in, I think this was an AEW creation that they really wanted and they felt was really, really special. They got her in the door, they signed her to the deal, and they're like, "You've got a fantastic look." And she's like, "Yeah, I know." And they're like, "Can you cut a promo?" And she was like, "Yeah, no." And then they're like, "Can you wrestle?" And she was like, kinda. So then they really worked with her. There was a whole thing where she wasn't on television for a while. That was them working with her, trying to get her smoothed out around the edges. She's come back. She's had a couple of matches. I think this was probably her best match of her WWE career, but them not trusting her enough and only giving her 7 minutes on a pay-per-view and not putting the title on her when it was built up for her to be the champion, to leave with that belt. I think that's telling us all we kind of need to know about what they feel about Jade Cargill. What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, it's actually the right call. I think in some way I've said on this podcast that when a champion gets the belt, that's one sign of respect. But then the next sign is when you hold the belt, how does your reign go? And I think they built up Jade for us to believe that she was this big, strong force. But then I also look at it from the perspective of Tiffany. She got the rub off of beating Jade Cargill. Now, it's absolutely right. Jade Cargill is not world championship material. World championship material in Paul's eyes is somebody good on the mic, a worker, somebody that when they get the ball, they work even harder and can carry a match. And so that's why you look at the champions, Rhea Ripley, Tiffany, Seth Rollins. And so what they did, which was fine, is they've now built up stock in Jade Cargill. This is what she brings to the table. Now she's got to continue to work and grow. But based on seeing Unreal, you can see that when Paul goes, okay, can she be the champion that has matches and feuds? And right now the answer is no. She's still raw and learning. And so this is a great experience. And also too, look what Jade said on social media. You guys win all the hate. And so adversity is great for a person's character. So now we move forward. Jade takes a step back in terms of her ego and gets after it. And also, more importantly, Tiffany can have matches with others that can build money. So right now, I'm okay with it the way it went down, because in the end, when we say on a podcast, Jade's not the best wrestler, Jade's not the complete package, you then don't go, let's put a title on her. So it was probably our fault, nearsighted, because we just felt like, we were biased because Triple H dipped into the China a little bit, and we figured that if he likes China, then he definitely loves Jade. But in the end, Paul's grown up, and he looks at the total package, and he does understand that Tiffany is where the money's at right now.
And look, to what you said, he has an idea of what his champions look like. She's not it.
She's not it right now.
She's not it. And I'm not saying, I don't want this to get taken the wrong way. It's not because she's black. That's not what the thing is. It's, can she do the work? Does she have all of the tools to carry the company? You look at a guy like a Cody Rhodes. That is a guy who he feels is worthy of carrying that championship. You look like a guy like a Seth Rollins, a John Cena, even Gunther for that fact. Gunther's a guy who can go out there and work, and he can work with a lot of different people. He'll put the championship on you. Jey Uso was a guy that at the time it really felt like it kind of made sense because he was going out there. He was working every night. He had the crowd in the palm of his hand. He would put on good matches. I wouldn't say that they were great matches, but he would put on good matches. It sounds like in watching Unreal and listening to some of the stuff that's come out and some of the interviews that he has done, sounds like he got a little bit of a big head, and it sounds like he was sitting a little bit fat on the horse, and he maybe stopped putting some of the work in. They took the belt off of him. So, he has an idea of what the champion is supposed to be and what the champion can do. And somebody who will probably be a champion very soon will be one of these four guys. Two of these four guys, probably. Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul. They end up taking on Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. Very surprised. The celebrity ends up losing in this match. Sounds like it was requested by Jelly Roll that he does lose this match, as Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul defeated Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. This then moves us onto our main event, which is CM Punk taking on Gunther for the WWE World Heavyweight title. Look, I thought this was a really good match. I think the thing that kind of comes out of it is Punk ends up defeating Gunther. And then we have the surprise cash in by Seth Rollins, who ends up defeating CM Punk. And I thought it was a great cash in. And I thought the way this was set up was well done. I think this would have been better if stories didn't leak weeks prior and we didn't anticipate this happening. I think the surprise factor would have been exceptional. I think Seth Rollins going on the Rich Eisen show showed all the cards in the world. I think we were all kind of like skeptical and we're like, we're not really sure about this. He goes on the Rich Eisen show.
We're like, we know what's up. We all know what's up.
Yes. At that point, we were like, cool, you just confirmed it for us. Thank you. So Seth Rollins cashes in on CM Punk. And so I think the big question coming out of this, right, is this was fantastically done. I thought the match with CM Punk and Gunther was great. I thought Seth Rollins defeating CM Punk and cashing in was fantastic. When does Punk get a title run? This was something we talked about on last week's show. When, if ever, does he get his shot to be a champion?
At WrestleMania.
How do you see that playing out?
I thought it was beautifully done. And look, in the end, it was one of those deals where even though you knew it was coming, it was done so well. Seth comes out with the crutches, then he knocks him down, and look, the crowd still ate it up. And so it's just one of those deals where you got the hint, you got it subtly. Yeah, him going on the Rich Eisen show would have been probably the one thing that they could have just avoided. But look, he loves sports radio, he loves talking about his Bears, and in the end, he did a good enough job in regards to a lot of crutches, a lot of people sharing pictures of it. So, it's night one's, not full kayfabe, but hey, good job because everyone liked it. And it's also, it'll make the win even more and more special because that's the formula. You bring the babyface down a little bit, you make him struggle, and the emotion that he got, it was just told perfectly because you let CM Punk have 5 minutes of celebration. He puts right when he puts his arms up and he's exhausted, the music plays, and you can see on both Cena and CM Punk, they panned in on their faces when it happened, and they were just like, "Oh no!" And look, it's great. Seth Rollins is the best wrestler in the world, and for him to be healthy is great news. It's great news that Paul Heyman made him a guy he's made. And it's great because he's a total package. He can do it all. So it's great because of how it all shook out. And I loved it. I thought the match was great with CM Punk. Maybe a little excessive on the blood with Gunther. And it was still cool to see the go to sleep from CM Punk. It was an old school match. And the ending was great. And I just thought night one built up to that. It lived up to the hype. And they got the 30 minutes. And so that's where it's just like, okay, you end well. People are excited. They're buzzing about Seth Rollins, and that's what they intended for night one. And for CM Punk, you just go and you get your opportunity at the main event, the true main event of WrestleMania, if you can get after it. If it's Cody Rhodes, if it's somebody else, he's just got to continue to build himself up to the point where, Unfortunately, it's probably going to be Seth Rollins, so probably to be another night one of Saturday. But in the end, the person to take the belt off of Seth has to be CM Punk.
Yeah.
And that'll be
But
the cash in. Maybe it's the Royal Rumble, maybe it's WrestleMania. But I think that the best plan would be Seth to hold the belt until WrestleMania. He goes through the roster, and CM Punk builds himself up and finally says, all right, it's my time. And then he gets the World Championship at WrestleMania. That'll be his moment. And then 2026 will be his year, and then you start to fade him out.
so working through this, right? I think you've laid it out. You've put the breadcrumbs there. So I'm just going to pick them up and I'm going to make us a sandwich real quick. I think the way this works is you've got this little bit of a lull right now where you can do a lot of different stuff with Punk.
Yep.
Obviously, he's fired up. He's come back. He got decimated by the Vision on Monday Night Raw. Punk can go away. Punk can stay. However you want to do it. But
Yes.
Punk has to be involved in the Royal Rumble. Punk
Yes.
has to win the Royal Rumble.
Correct.
Punk then punches his ticket to WrestleMania where
Ding,
he
ding.
takes on Seth Rollins and he beats Seth Rollins for the championship.
Correct.
And then you can do whatever you want to do with it after that. Give him his WrestleMania moment and let him go. Let him do what he's got to do. And I think that's how he gets his championship. And I think that's where we end up. And look, I needed to take a couple steps back and be like, what the hell are we doing? When is this guy going to ever get his run? And I need you to understand, I'm not a fan of CM Punk. All of the antics after when he was in AEW, him basically bearing WWE forever and a day and then coming back and signing a very lucrative contract kind of tells me all I need to know about the guy. And you can just go no further than looking at his stance on Saudi Arabia, and then them offering him a big payday and he goes to Saudi Arabia. So where the money's at, he's going to go.
Right.
So,
But also,
I'm not a huge fan of CM Punk.
But also too, if you just look at what's happening now, if you're a creative visionary like CM Punk and you're idealistic and you see AEW and you go, man, these guys hate me. Why aren't we making matches? Like, he's also a guy that all these guys have a little bit of a booker in them. And you see in Unreal,
Yeah.
he's somebody that's also saying, hey, what about this finish? What about this finish? And everybody's sitting around going, damn, that's pretty good. So you're CM Punk and you're like, okay, this is the professional wrestling business. We have heat here. Heat equals money. Let's tell a story. And so what have they done from day one? From the moment that CM Punk walked in, Seth Rollins was like, this is money. And so they saw that and said, you see this reaction. They tell a story that Seth hates CM Punk. When the antagonist is pissed, what does he do? His mission, Seth Rollins says, I'm going to make your life hell. You're not going to win a title here. And then throughout the next year and a half, 2 years, he goes about it. It's
absolutely fantastic. The storytelling has been fantastic.
And that's all CM Punk would have wanted. And he's like, what are we doing a clown show here? In AEW, it would have been Matt Jackson beats CM Punk 2 weeks later. And the next week he's going to have a match with Darby Allin. And he's like, what the hell is this? No, let's tell a story. Let's do something. And instead, they told Hangman Page got CM Punk's story. And so CM Punk doing that at least helped AEW in some way grow up a little bit and say, hey, there's money to be made. There's attention to be made when you tell a story. So I can see his frustration. But yeah, cuz, listen, in the end, a lot of people are going to change their tune when you drop a bunch of cash in front of them. That's just the way.
Sure.
That's just the way of the world, baby.
For sure. All right, so then that gets us to night 2. And we kick off night 2 with a women's match. We have Naomi taking on Rhea Ripley and Io Sky for the Women's World Championship. Rhea had Io dead to rights again for the second time for a championship. Naomi ends up winning with a roll-up. Now, you said you hated this finish. Did you hate it because it was a roll-up? Because I know you despise the roll-up. Of all finishing moves, the roll-up is the one that really, really sticks in your craw and really pisses you off. Or was it the fact that Naomi won? Why did you hate this finish to this match? Because I thought this made the most sense in the world.
Yeah.
Because Rhea still hasn't beaten Io.
Right.
And Naomi as a heel does heel things and has taken yet another championship away from Rhea Ripley in essentially back-to-back weeks.
Correct. Now, first and foremost, I'm not a fan of the live musical intros, even though it was her dad. I just thought that, okay, playing the guitar, it was cool. I just like the produced music, nice and loud. That's not a problem. It's nice for the family. But in the end, there's levels and layers. Yes, I think that if you want to expose and highlight Naomi, there's just the best way to do it is one-on-one. She takes out Io, throws her out of the ring, and you complete your finisher and win the match. So she did the heel thing where she grabs the tights or so and gets the win. The roll, yeah, it is not because Naomi won. I thought that's great because you also, like we've said, our thesis has been once you become champion, you also need to elevate the champion and not cheapen it, because all you did to Chelsea Green was cheapen her title. All you did to certain others was cheapen it when you only get a week or two to have the title. So, in my humble opinion, I felt like Naomi should have done a finishing move on. You have a finisher for a reason. The roll up is really weird because you start to see in some of these big matches on some of these WWE vaults, you're like, oh my god, they used the roll up here in this spot, and it's just it just feels like it's something in the Rolodex of finishers that if I'm a producer, I'm not using, as opposed to finisher. Have the ref look away, ref bump, do something. There's tables, there's stuff going on. You could do some things. You could cheat. You could hit her with the belt. You could do so many different things. The roll up really is because to me, when you're Rhea Ripley, and I just feel like the move in and of itself, because of the way that you can just kind of kick your legs out, you know what I mean? It's like all you got to do really in the end to get out of a rollout is throw your leg out and your body's going to fly the other way momentum wise. Oh, because you grabbed my back, I have to stay down. So the idea of that finishing Rhea is, I feel like, bad producing when there's 15 better options, and it makes the person on the other end look weird. Like you couldn't get up from someone grabbing you. All you had to do is roll out or push your legs up, a simple hip thrust. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's not like I hate it. It's just oh my god, you know what would have been funny if you know what the other funny move, the finisher is? If Naomi would have just put her two legs up on the ropes and held her down. You know, that's the other age-old classic where, oh my God, she's got her in a pin and she jumped her legs up and then she used the extra leverage. I just think if you're a champion, you get a finisher, use it. It elevates your mood. It elevates you. It elevates your stature. You complete your finisher 1, 2, 3, and you get after it. But the heel roll up, I guess. But I thought it ruined what was a decent start to night 2.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. And look, I get you hating the roll up. I think overall, for what it was, this sets up perfectly because
right, the roll up should have.
Io still have heat.
Yeah,
Io now has a claim that she's never technically been beaten for her belt.
Right,
so she can face Naomi. Rhea's now got beef with Naomi. I think it just leaves.
Perfect. It was perfect.
So open.
The roll up should just be used in the first 5 minutes to be like, oh, she tried to get it over with quickly, and then that's it. The first 5 minutes, let the person kick out.
It's for the fake fall. That's what you want it for.
Yeah, it's for the fake fall. A finisher is weird. Like you put down Triple H. We're gonna go with a great match here. We're gonna do this and this, and the finisher. We're gonna go home. Roll up. She's gonna grab her by the tights. Roll up. You can be like, all right, let that slide. I'd be like, come on, man. There's so many better things to do. To be, if you're a producer, throw something out there. Like, I want you to do a Huracan Rana off the top rope. Can you try this and try that? Like, no, I can just use my finisher and get after it. So, it was one of those deals where it was talked about. It was talked about on Unreal. Chelsea Green was like, "You're not gonna let me use my finisher," and she basically vetoed the producer. The producer tried some stupid idea, and she's like, "There was no way I was gonna win a title and not use my finisher." And she was just like, I'm doing my finisher. And so that was cool to see her stand up for herself. And I'd like that to be done when this kind of ending is put together.
I feel like she's somebody, you brought up Chelsea Green, and not to deviate too much because we've got a lot to still get through. But I feel like she is somebody who is absolutely fantastic and has a great mind for the business, does not get enough love, really does not get enough love. All right, let's move on to our next match. Our next match was the Wyatt Six retaining the WWE Tag Team Championships in a crazy tables, ladders, and chairs match.
Crazy.
This was absolutely bonkers. Like, you had people falling through double stacked tables. You had people falling through ladders. You had some of the females getting involved and taking hard bumps. This was an absolutely crazy match. Our next match was Becky Lynch defeating Lyra Valkyria for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Now, Becky ends up getting the win as Bayley comes out to fight Becky, which was a little bit weird. I guess there is history there, makes sense. Inadvertently, she ends up hitting Lyra Valkyria with a fist that's wrapped with a chain. I think the big thing you need to know about this His Lyra at one point had her hands zip tied throughout a majority of this match.
Right.
Only to then get slammed and have her hand come out of the zip tie, and then you can watch her put her hand back in the zip tie on camera. It was bad. It was really, really bad. It was a horrible choice on her part to do that. She should have just left it out, and they could have just went and did something else, or
Correct.
Becky could have came back and zip tied her again. It really, I think that killed. If you were watching this on television, I think if you were in the arena, you probably didn't catch it. If you were watching it on television, I feel like it really took away from what this match was supposed to be, and really put a bit of a dark spot on it. Whatever, it's all said and done. Lyra can't challenge Becky for now till forever. Cool, let's move on. Solo ends up defeating Jacob Fatu to retain his United States Championship. You talked about it early on.
Yeah.
This was a match that really felt quick. It felt like the high spots came after the match. There was a point where Jacob Fatu is handcuffed to the top of the cage, and somehow he breaks out of the handcuffs. Like he breaks the handcuff. The camera never caught it. You had to go back to a replay with a different camera catching it.
Right.
It was, to me, it was just poor. This was a match that we were both looking forward to, and it was not done well. Something that was done well, Dominic Mysterio defeats AJ Styles to retain his Intercontinental Championship. I thought Dominic Mysterio, we've talked about him growing and we talked about him becoming a better wrestler. I thought he did an absolutely fantastic job here. And if we want to use the term co-main event, for him to get the co-main event spot on this card, he really did his job. I think Dominic Mysterio has come such a long way from being a guy that I wouldn't say regularly shit on, but a guy that we wanted more from. He's really done a really good job of honing his craft, and he's gotten so much better. I'm looking forward to a lot of the stuff with Dominic Mysterio going forward. Now that brings us to our main event. There's a lot for us to unpack here. Cody Rhodes ends up defeating John Cena in a street fight to win the undisputed WWE Championship. This was babyface John Cena coming out. So you had babyface versus babyface. If anything, Cody Rhodes did more heel tactics in this match than John Cena did. I thought this was a fantastic match. Probably one of John Cena's best matches he's had in the last 5 years, maybe even 10 years. I thought this was absolutely a fantastic match. This was a passing of the torch.
Yes.
I thought it was done really, really well. Now, you hate a lot of what we seen. And a lot of what we seen was probably, and I don't even know if there's an argument for it, was some of the worst heel turn and heel run that we've ever had. Cody Rhodes on Friday night is now going to get locked into a match with Drew McIntyre, but John Cena, there's no reason to spend any time with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. That's going to get filled out in the next couple weeks. Worst heel run ever. John Cena, I agree with you 110%. Is that the thing that really bothered you about this match was John Cena basically turning babyface the night before the match started, and his heel run was just felt really incomplete, felt forced?
It was terrible. It unfortunately, you didn't have any contingency plans if Travis Scott. I mean, your pivot is because Travis Scott is lazy and doesn't want to become a wrestler. And credit to Jelly Roll, who took big bumps, and a lot of people were really crediting him with being willing to take high spots, viral moments. He earned the respect of Triple H. You didn't have a contingency plan. All people wanted was you couldn't get The Rock for 2 hours. Dude, he has a private plane. You couldn't get him for 2 hours, get to MetLife, and be more of a heel. Like, you could have did that. Most people would have believed if you kept this going, that could have been John Cena's last match. Would have been a top of the line. Why would you peak John Cena at SummerSlam? I know it's a big event, but that could have been extended out until his final match. That would have been a beautiful ending. You passed the torch, last match, done. I felt like he should have been more of a heel. I feel like if you wanted to be a heel, then you have to commit to it for more than just 90 days. And the reason is why, because you're telling us the thinking was, and the thesis is just stupid. The thinking is, I was a heel. I didn't like being a heel, so I'm just going to go change back. Well, then you were never supposed to be a heel in the first place, and the only reason why you did it was for a moment, was for a television show. He should have been more of a heel. He should have called out somebody else. He should have called out any of his old friends. I mean, simple booking, all right? you wanted to bring back the Beast incarnate. Everybody and their mom would have thought, and you could have had your NWO moment. Everybody and their mom would have thought, oh my God, Michael Cole screaming into the microphone, the Beast is here to take out Cena. What's going to happen? Oh my God, it's been a couple years. He walks out and he's looking at Cena, picks him up for the F5, puts him down and destroys Cody. What did you remember from 2 years ago? Cody beat Brock Lesnar in the middle of the ring. John Cena and Brock, I called the Beast. And now we have a run for the next 6 months. You have a heel. Hey, I needed help. And I got the guy that's the baddest man on the planet. Who is more of a heel right now in the world of wrestling than Brock Lesnar? They just took an easy story and took it away from us. You could have had Cena, and then you could have had Brock Lesnar, and then at the end, they're standing there, and The Rock's music. You can give Rock 5 minutes of airtime. The Rock's music hits, he's standing there, and he's clapping. And then you have the announcers going apeshit. Oh my God, The Rock has used all his power and resources to bring the Brock back to WWE. And you got John Cena. Who's next? What's going to happen here? You could have just built the baddest NWO out there. But yet, because you have, again, The Rock being involved, fucking up a whole story, you just switched John Cena because I don't feel like it. Yep. Because Cody Rhodes called me and said I want to. Basically what frustrates me is there's better stories that could have happened, and you had to pivot because of fucked up shit that you did. You could have pivoted in a better way, and in the end, though I did pop for Brock Lesnar, it was cool. But I mean, it's two 48-year-old dudes. I would have liked to have told a fresh story. And Brock Lesnar and John Cena working together is pretty freaking sweet. And then they start recruiting. We are going to go through this roster and we're going to start testing people. Whose side are you on? Are you on the right side of history? He said he wanted to ruin wrestling. How do you ruin wrestling? You ruin wrestling by bringing a guy. John Cena could have referenced it. You guys think that lawsuits in courtrooms are going to stop WWE? You guys are crazy. And then you could have had bits in the courtroom. You could have referenced it in some weird ways. You could have just did some fun stuff with it in a heel way. You could be a heel in a heel type fashion. And so you just felt like there was so much meat left on the bone that I'm still hungry. And that did not satiate me in any capacity.
The big issue is it never really felt like John Cena committed to being the heel. And it felt like it was a forced story because The Rock and Travis Scott needed to be involved. And then it just didn't end well. It didn't end the way it should have ended.
It's the worst heel run in the history of wrestling. That's not pleasant.
It was poorly done. And honestly, I like your booking idea better of bringing Brock in as his heater. And him and Brock having a run together. And at some point, if you really wanted to, you could have Brock turn on him. Who the hell cares?
Right.
The thing that is kind of amazing is none of us expected Brock Lesnar to show up. Brock Lesnar is embroiled in a lawsuit. And it sounds as though, according to Uncle Dave, WWE legal cleared Lesnar 4 weeks prior. And there's still a lot going on with the Janelle Grant lawsuit. So we have to remember, this was astounding.
But we have to remember, it's a civil money case. He will not face any criminal charges. He will never be behind bars. This is just
the thing too is to remember he is brought up in the lawsuit.
Right.
The lawsuit is not against him per se. The lawsuit is against Vince McMahon,
correct,
WWE, and I think there's like 3 other plaintiffs in this.
Oh, there you go. So Nick Khan don't play.
And 3 other defendants. He is just mentioned in the lawsuit.
And Nick Khan don't play. So 6 lawyers with suits on were like, this is all good. And so it's also Nick's like, well, this is some, if he's not in jail, we're gonna use him. And so it's gangster. It definitely is a slap in the face to what's going on. So we'll see how it goes down. But yeah, Brock Lesnar showed up, got a paycheck, and popped the world, and he still got a huge pop. He is starting to look his age a little bit. His head is bigger than his hairline, which is weird. It was like literally someone photoshopped his hair and shrunk it down a little bit. Like, we need to fill that out a little bit. So I would have kept the hat on, but in the end, it's intriguing. It was cool. Everyone popped for it. It was definitely a surprise. They did a good job, But then to not continue it, it's just like, okay, it was a SummerSlam pop. That's what it was.
Yep. All right, so we take a quick look at calling the card. I end up sweeping both nights. I increased my lead by 3, 7-4 right now. Let's touch on AEW real quick. This has been quite a long and heavy show. We still have some news and notes we got to get to. My big note from AEW is the stuff with the Young Bucks is probably some of the best stuff on television right now.
Correct.
The Young Bucks being stripped of their EVP power and the way they are treated every week is absolutely incredible and makes me laugh and pops me every time. These are guys who now show up basically riding Vespas or having to get Ubers to get to the arena. When they get to the arena, they literally have to change in a janitor's closet. This week, they were coming out and they had a card written for Justin Roberts, who read the card verbatim. And it was basically them telling Justin Roberts how he has to put respect on their name. And instead, it was them just kind of putting down Justin Roberts, and Justin Roberts read it out loud as their intro. I thought it was great. I thought their screen coming up and getting stuck and they had to crawl out from underneath it was great. The pyro, where it looked like people had handheld fireworks in their hands and they shot off 2 of them and they just kind of fizzled. I thought that was great. Them getting called in tags like with their nameplate as they were walking to the ring. They're old. If you ever watched any old TNA when the Young Bucks were there, that was their names when they were in TNA. It was like Max and Jerry. I died. I died, bro. There was so much good stuff wrapped up in a match where they ended up going on to lose. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I think what they're doing right now is some of their best work. They do a really good job leaning into the comedic side of wrestling. And for them to be basically taking this on the ass, I think is absolutely fantastic. I really, really, really enjoyed it. Overall, though, I thought AEW's programming this week was good. It was there. There was nothing that I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. The stuff that I thought was fantastic was the Young Bucks. Did you take anything away from this week's episode of AEW?
Man, MJF is doing some great work, man. I think that the stuff that he's doing with his overall persona online, even though I know that things are going on with him, I like what the Hurt Business is doing. I like what I'm seeing with stuff going on, with the Young Bucks, like you said. It's funny to see because they were such a force and such a factor, and for them to take a downturn, they're embracing it. So it's crazy. It's crazy to see. I'm curious to see how Don Callis and his crew continue to grow. It's really cool. It's really cool to see how everything is shaken out with Kyle Fletcher and moving forward. John Moxley now is a little bit more intriguing because of the loss. Next week, it's going to happen. Hangman Adam Page and MJF are going to go face to face. So I'm excited to see that potential. So MJF, man, I do think it's time for him to kind of get to the forefront again and be after it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where the top of the card goes with AEW. Now for them, they just got to kind of round out the mid card a little bit with the Kyle Fletchers of the world. Willow Nightingale on the female side, I think can get after it. So we'll see. The Triangle of Madness is always interesting to kind of peek into. And then, it does stink with Will Ospreay with what's been going on. But I do like what I'm seeing with, Bailey, with Speedball Bailey, what he could bring to the table. So there's some great stuff going on at AEW. It's just now got to be in a mode where they flush out some of the stories to get to where they need to go. So they're starting to plant the seeds. Now we just kind of need that hook to get everybody involved in all these stories.
Yeah, I agree with you. They've got stuff. They're setting things up. Look, Forbidden Door is around the corner. Yep. So they're laying down the foundation for this. Their pay-per-views are great, man. The pay-per-views are always so damn good. Honestly, I wish they took a little bit of the greatness from the pay-per-views and put it into the television show.
Right.
Because it would make the television show that much better to watch every week. But it is what it is. We'll see how AEW continues to build on all of this as we make our push towards Forbidden Door. Are you ready for some news and notes before we get out of here?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So this WWE superstar will be sidelined for a while. The main event of SummerSlam Night 1 this past weekend saw Gunther lose his World Heavyweight Championship to CM Punk before Seth Rollins then cashed in with his Money in the Bank to win the title from Punk. In one of the final moments of the Gunther versus Punk match, we saw Gunther drop face first onto the announce table and then go under the table before emerging with a face covered in blood. This was a planned spot to cover for a real-life injury Gunther has been dealing with, which he was taking some time off for. Wrestling Observer reported before SummerSlam that Gunther has been dealing with a nose issue. WWE announced that Gunther has suffered a septal hematoma and an orbital blowout fracture as a result of the injury from the announced table spot. It was also stated that he would be out of action indefinitely. Sticking with the injury bug, this AEW star needs 2 new knees. During the ending of the match between Dustin Rhodes and Kyle Fletcher, we saw Fletcher drive a screwdriver into Rhodes' knees, and the angle was seemingly done to cover up a legit injury to Dustin. This all took place last week on Collision. Taking to Twitter, Dustin revealed that both his knees are destroyed and that he is set for surgery on August 21st to undergo double knee replacement surgery. He said, "Knees are both destroyed. I have to go under the knife August 21st. They can't fix the damage, so we're getting 2 new knee replacements. Damn, keep stepping. By the way, this is not the end." And part of a follow-up post, he said, "I promise to push myself as hard as possible to make it back. I still got lots to do, but in the meantime, I just want to say thanks to all of you for checking in on me and giving me words of encouragement." Sticking with some other injury bugs, Eddie Kingston is pushing to make his return to AEW. He's having some difficulties coming back from that awful break. He broke his leg and basically destroyed his knee. ACL, MCL, LCL, like his whole knee had to be replaced. He's having some difficulties coming back. Also, Austin Theory has been removed from WWE's internal roster due to injury. So the thought is when he does come back, he will be repackaged. Him and Grayson Waller will probably jump into a feud right away. So we'll see what happens there as well. Now, the year 2026 marks a big shift for WWE. This is what Doc was alluding to early in our show. A major announcement on Wednesday, August 6th. It was confirmed that ESPN will be the new home of WWE PLEs in the United States starting next year, replacing the NBC Universal Peacock platform, which has held the PLE rights since 2021. WWE and ESPN's deal is reportedly for 5 years in length, and ESPN will be paying an average of $325 million per year, a big increase on the $180 million per year average, which WWE has been receiving from its existing deal with Peacock. In addition, 10 premium live events are planned to take place each year throughout the length of the deal, and some events simulcasting on ESPN's linear networks, as well as the new ESPN streaming service, which will cost $29.99 a month. So depending on what you pay for your Peacock, I know that's going up. I think Peacock's like $9.99, so it's going to cost you almost $20 more for the lowest Peacock price. If you're paying the higher end stuff, I think it's like 13 or 15 for the no ads. But WWE has held 12 PLEs across the main roster and NXT thus far in 2025, with 4 more events announced for the remainder of the year. Despite WWE's PLEs moving to ESPN in 2026, SmackDown will continue to be available to stream on Peacock as well as airing live on USA Network. Monday Night Raw will continue to be on Netflix. So just more streaming and stuff. There's talk that if you have a current cable provider, you'll be able to use an access code to watch these things for free. The thing is, it's limited cable providers that this is allowed for. So deals aren't completely done. They're planning to unveil this and roll this stuff out the start of the college football season. So in a couple of weeks, we'll see how this takes place and see how this works. Also, ESPN just bought the NFL Network and Red Zone, anticipating that's going to go up as well. We'll see. I hate all of this. It makes me very, very upset. A big-time indie wrestler has a very scary medical situation. Former TNA and ROH star Jonathan Gresham has revealed that he has recently suffered 2 strokes and will now be taking a hiatus from wrestling as a result. Sharing a lengthy post on Twitter on Thursday, August 7th, Gresham revealed that he woke up 2 days ago unable to walk or move the left side of his body with an MRI, later confirming that he had suffered 2 strokes. Gresham's wife, WWE star Jordan Grace, was in Orlando at the time, but rushed to Atlanta to be by his side after seeing him being carted off to the hospital on their Ring doorbell camera. Gresham most recently wrestled at GCW's Bloodsport 14, if I got my Roman numerals right, on August 2nd, losing to WWE star Pete Dunne at the event in New Jersey. And that's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my brother.
Yeah. We spend 60 minutes now. We got to pay Nick Khan $14.99 for using so many of the trademarks. We have used the word Triple H, Paul. We've used Nick Khan. We've used Brock Lesnar. We've used John Cena. So, yeah, so in the hour that we've spent, we will now be taxed $14 because Nick Khan has realized that there's more money to be made. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it might end up being the end of my live pay-per-view watching or just my new exploration of how to watch it continuously on the side of cost effectiveness. We'll see. I know that the group chat has explored early opportunities to utilize opportunities to use cost-effective ways of finding these pay-per-views. They do a lot of clips, so we'll see how it all plays out. But here's the crazy part, which sucks, is that they have such a vast library. The library's not coming over. So where's that going to go? Do you get that for Peacock? Do you get, because sometimes you just want to go back and go, man, I want to see WrestleMania 18 after Hulk Hogan passed away. I want to watch those things. Yeah, they have the WWE Vault, which is amazing. It's just simply amazing. But, first and foremost, I think Peacock will keep some of the library. Are they going to sell the library in the future? So it just sucks because in the end, WWE is now in the more business, which is we're going to do more shows. We're going to do more business. We're going to do more licensing of our stuff. So basically,
it's going to cost you more money
across the board. So
WWE PLEs or just events in general, they're unaffordable. Like
exactly.
You can't go.
You can't go.
Like
no.
You got to save up to go to these things.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
You got to treat it like the Super Bowl. And in the end, it just I'm not a fan of, hey, I got to go to USA Network, got to go to Netflix, got to go to Peacock, got to go to NBC. That's the biggest
pain in the ass. You now have to have four different networks or streaming services to get your programming.
Bro, it's just not right. And the ESPN new digital thing is just really just slicing off the cable thing and putting it on a separate streaming. You don't get anything more. You don't get special programming other than WWE, and they're going to expand it out. So it's unfortunate. Eventually, I'm going to start cutting. I probably will cut Peacock and Paramount. I like them, some things, but not to the point where you want to keep doing it. And so it's just the way of the world. It's the more business. It's unfortunate because when things go corporate, and we said it was going to go this way. We always talked about Vince being that way and reveling in it. But when you slice it that many ways, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty much.
The messed up thing is, Vince doesn't even seem like the worst devil to deal with at this point. Vince had a low ball price point.
All right.
Of $10 a month. Yeah. You get everything.
You get everything.
You just got to come to my network. You just got to pay me.
Exactly.
And it's
then
nuts, man.
And then Nick Khan said, bro, you know how much money you cost us doing that, asshole? Listen, let's slice that up and let's not do it because that's the business model. Is we have the hamburgers. We don't want the store. We just want to ship it to Michigan, California, Florida. We make the good product and whoever wants it gets it. And we don't need the storefronts. We can cut that out. And so that's what it is. TKO is capitalizing on the corporate nature of how to run WWE. It stinks, but there are still some good storylines to chomp your teeth into. And so we'll try to avoid the sad business side because every minute that we go over an hour of our allotted time to podcast, Nick Khan is going to charge us another $14.49. So we've got to end this podcast after 60 minutes. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. Do you like this? Are you going to get the $29.99 ESPN? If you've cut the cord, now you have an a la carte channel that you get. We'll see how it all plays out. It's not going to start right away in January, so luckily we might get the Royal Rumble on Peacock. So we'll see how it all plays out. But if CM Punk ends up winning it, maybe Doc and Jock won't be able to see it live. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I'm the Doc, John McEnroe. Let's fire it up next week for another episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.